The city of Philadelphia, Rocky, they're going to fight. They're going to push.
We're going to 5 different countries this year.
If he suffers another serious injury, that could be it for him.
Packers are the ones that are not going to make it. Still, they could.
Who else is that guy? Lamar Jackson.
I don't think the Bills improved all that much from last year. I think you could almost say they got worse.
Hello and welcome to Ain't That Our Ball, our brand new weekly show giving you the inside info from across the NFL. I'm Spencer Clinton and I'm joined by our American football expert, David Scott. David, how's it going?
It's going pretty great. You know, we're just hours away from the start of the 2025 campaign, and it's going to be another action-packed year.
We'll be with you every Thursday as the season goes on, looking ahead to the big weekend of action before bringing you our football X's and O's tactical review show every Monday night.
Yeah, we've got an extra special NFL season preview for you today, and there's so much to get through.
We'll be looking at Aaron Rodgers' move to the Steelers. Can he finally get them over their playoff curse under Mike Tomlin? Can anyone challenge the Chiefs? Will the Eagles fly again? Or is there a surprise package in the mix? How will Travis Hunter fare in the NFL? Aaron Rodgers has landed in Pittsburgh under head coach Mike Tomlin. David, how do you think the 41-year-old is going to fare this year?
You know, I think it's a little hard to predict. You know, he's Aaron Rodgers. You don't want to count him out, but at the same time, as you said, he's 41 years old. It's hard to project a 41-year-old. Obviously, we've had that before with, Tom Brady. He made it to 45, but he's Tom Brady. Aaron Rodgers is probably the closest thing to Tom Brady, so I think he's capable of doing well. It's just looking at who's surrounding him on that team. I don't know if it's that great. The Steelers lost some pieces on offense. They got in DK Metcalf, but they lost George Pickens. They don't have a great wide receiver room. They don't have a great running back room. He's going to be playing with a rookie there. Their offensive line was not great last year. So it's going to be about what can Aaron Rodgers do to create on the Steelers, and are they good enough to work like that?
Absolutely. You have to think that a veteran coach like Mike Tomlin, who's had such success but just hasn't been able to get through the playoffs, and similar to Aaron Rodgers, who had his heyday but also ran into roadblocks. Maybe now that they're together, can they form some magic? We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, it's interesting because Tomlin, ever since his Super Bowl win back with Big Ben years ago, can't get through the first round of the playoffs. And then, ever since Aaron Rodgers' Super Bowl win way back then, hasn't really gotten through the playoffs. He had one championship run, but they lost out. And then, he started getting, playoff choker allegations. So, maybe they can find something between them, two veteran minds, two, really strong NFL presences, that might come together and get us something. But just looking at it, I right now, I don't see Super Bowl aspirations for the Steelers.
On top of that, they really have to make sure he stays healthy because he is 41. And if he suffers another serious injury, that could be it for him. I mean, he already had a slight injury in camp just with getting stepped on. If anything more serious happened, could that be it for him?
Yeah, well, if we look back on his time with the Jets, obviously his first year with the Jets, he gets that big Achilles injury that puts him down for the season. He came back for his second year with the Jets. I didn't think he was all that bad. He had around 3,500 yards, decent touchdown to interception ratio. I think he played pretty decently. Again, he didn't have a great team around him. However, he was still Aaron Rodgers. Obviously, he's not very mobile. He can't run all that much because of that Achilles injury, and also because he's 41. But at the same time, I think it's kind of crazy to say. I think the Jets might have had a better offense around him than he has with the Steelers. You have a guy like Garrett Wilson, who's a very clear top wide receiver. You have Breece Hall, who's better than the options that they have at the Steelers. And the Jets' offensive line has been a lot better in recent years than it had been in the past. And, Rodgers, he took a good amount of sacks last year.
At the same time, too, he's dealing with a completely different offense now, which could be a good thing for him.
If you've got, a steady coaching situation, a steady team around him, I could see that maybe impacting his mentality and, helping them get to the playoffs.
Speaking of the playoffs, let's talk about the Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills are one of the highest scoring teams in the league. They've got Josh Allen, MVP quarterback. Do you think they can stop the Chiefs this year? Do you think this can finally be their year? I mean, they can score to no end, but it just feels like their defense has these cracks, and they just always let the Chiefs kind of end their season.
Yeah, it's interesting, and sometimes I think about the division that the Bills play in. Clearly not one of the best in recent years. You play against the Patriots, but they're not the Tom Brady Patriots. You play against the Jets every year. You play against the Dolphins every year. It's not very great. Obviously, the Chiefs, division isn't that much better. In recent years, I think it's gotten better with the Chargers and Broncos now both being playoff teams last year. The Raiders are not in that conversation, but it's certainly better. So you can look at the level of competition that they played throughout the year, and maybe that adjusts the Chiefs better. I just think it's that pedigree. The Chiefs are now known as constant Super Bowl contenders. You're always going to see them in the mix. You can never count them out, especially when Patrick Mahomes is on the team. Josh Allen is an MVP. He's solidified himself as the guy in the league that is probably better than everyone else. But the team around him, that's where you start looking at the holes. His offense around him is not better than Mahomes' offense around him. Josh Allen, I think, won that MVP because of how much he had to create on his own, rather than how, Mahomes has a lot of help from around him. And then the defense is just miles apart between the two. I don't think the Bills improved all that much from last year. I think you could almost say they got worse, which is a little, crazy to say, but I think looking at it right now, I wouldn't expect the Bills to beat the Chiefs in the playoffs, especially considering how their history has been.
Absolutely. You're putting a lot of pressure on sort of new defensive players like Buffalo Joe Andreessen and Joey Bosa, right? Heavy hitters. Can they carry all the pressure of that just themselves? No. We're going to need the offense to step up. Are guys like Joshua Palmer actually going to make a difference? You've got guys like Keon Coleman, young receivers, a lot of promise. Is this going to be their year? Or is Josh going to just be running the ball over and over again?
Yeah, it's going to be, you're looking for that guy to step up. You always want to see that guy step up. And, obviously Josh Allen steps up over and over again throughout the year. You haven't seen someone step up around him. He's got a great running back in James Cook. We've seen him, perform well, and he just got a new contract, so he's going to be there for a little while. The receiving core has never stepped up for him. I like Keon Coleman. I think he's a good player. Guys like Khalil Shakir never stepped up. They traded for Amari Cooper last year, a strong veteran, and he just did nothing there. And obviously anything can happen in the playoffs, but just based on looking at it from the rosters before we get into the games, I just don't see it.
Who else is that guy? Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson is that guy. And you've got Derrick Henry. Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry together is a cheat code. I mean, when you talk about the Bills having a great run game but not the best receiving core, that's kind of what I think about with the Ravens too. Obviously, they have guys like Zay Flowers and Rashad Bateman downfield, but ultimately, the beast of Derrick Henry and then Lamar's quick feet, I mean, it's hard to beat that. Do you think they might be the team to beat the Chiefs this year? Or do you think the Chiefs walk all over them?
I would give the Ravens a better chance than the Bills, for sure. You can make a pretty decent argument that Lamar Jackson should have won the MVP last year. Obviously, Allen gets it, and they're both great players, but Lamar has consistently shown that he is the best running quarterback in the league, maybe the best quarterback in the league. You add Derrick Henry to that mix last year, and you just see a disgusting combination of a running game. They got a good offensive line. They got a good running game. Where's the passing game, like you said? So, they have Zay Flowers, a young guy who has shown that he's got flashes of that talent, but hasn't gone completely over the top yet. They bring in DeAndre Hopkins, a veteran player who was on the Chiefs. Does he still have it? We don't know. One thing we do know is the Ravens' defense is going to be deadly. They have thumpers all over the place. They just boosted their defensive backs by bringing Jair Alexander. If anyone's going to give the Chiefs a run for their money, I could see it being the Ravens. Just their roster is a little bit better constructed. I think they can click a little bit better on the offense this year. They made it to the AFC Championship game against the Chiefs 2 years ago. Obviously, it didn't go the way they wanted, but they've shown they can get there. Can they get their revenge this year? I'd say it's totally possible.
Absolutely. I would love to see the Ravens get there over the Chiefs. I mean, it just feels like the Chiefs, things are constantly going their way, right? So we're just waiting for that team to step up and be that team to shut them down.
Yeah, and if the Ravens can do it, more power to them. Obviously, we don't want to see the same team in the Super Bowl for a fourth year. If they make it there, props to them because they're clearly doing something right.
Bringing it back to the Super Bowl, the Eagles. How are we going to see the Eagles do this year? Do you think Saquon can repeat what he did last year? I personally don't think so. I think he had a monster season last season, but it's just going to be so hard to replicate. Do you think he's still got that in him? Do you think teams will have sort of prepared plans for him. I don't know. It's a lot to ask for, but they've got a good core under Nick Sirianni. What are your thoughts?
I think the Eagles are certainly the most well-rounded team in football. They do everything right in almost every aspect of the ball. You've got the best running back in football. You've got the best offensive line in football. You got one of the best wide receiver cores in football. You've got an incredible quarterback. And then you could go down the line on their defense of just top player after top player after top player. And every rookie they've brought in has instantly become a top contender. Cooper DeJean, Quinyon Mitchell. They just find these guys, they turn them into monsters, and then they make it to the Super Bowl and win it. So to say that they can't repeat is impossible because we've seen the Chiefs do it, and I think this Eagles team is pretty clearly better than the 3 Super Bowl teams that Patrick Mahomes had when he won the Super Bowl. You can argue with me about that, but I think this team has clearly got that kind of talent. It's just a matter of, will the stars align again? Obviously, a 2,000-yard season. Has anyone ever gone back-to-back 2,000-yard seasons? That's going to be incredibly difficult to do. He's Saquon Barkley. He's still going to have a great season. Is he going to get 2,000? Probably not. But then again, he's Saquon Barkley. He might. A.J. Brown's still going to step up. If Jalen Hurts takes a step forward as a quarterback, that could be insane. Obviously, he's great with the tush push. He's a great running quarterback. His passing numbers aren't quite there yet. He had under 3,000 passing yards last year. If he takes a step forward as a passing quarterback, hand him the trophy. I'll take my step back and we can watch, the 2026 season because that would just take this team so far over the top. If we see that, no one's stopping them. If the team takes a step back, obviously that opens the door. You've got the Commanders with Jaden Daniels. You've got the Rams. They looked pretty good last year. I think the Buccaneers could be a sneaky team, but they're all a step below the Eagles right now. As long as no one takes that step up to match the Eagles level, they could pretty clearly win it again this year.
I mean, the Eagles are under a lot of pressure being defending champs, but they have such a confidence, such a swagger to them. Such a young team. I love Cooper DeJean. He's got that pick 6 in the Super Bowl that was just awesome to watch. I think of all the teams to face a hard schedule, they have the 6th hardest schedule in the league. I think they can face that and really rise to the challenge. And Jalen Hurts does have such weapons like A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith downfield. I could totally see him going deep more this season, maybe resting Saquon's legs a little more and using him as a secret weapon.
You said something about that swagger. I think some of that comes from their head coach. Love or hate him, Nick Sirianni brings something to that team. He's very arrogant. He's very upfront. He says what he's got to say. He's out there on the field. He's making noise. That's great for a team when you got a coach like that. Guys can rally behind a guy like that when he's just firing them all up. He doesn't care. He's got that Philly attitude. That's what this team really represents. They have that Philadelphia attitude. They are ready to run through a wall.
It's the city of Philadelphia, Rocky, they're going to always come back. They're going to fight. They're going to push. So, can't wait to see that this season. What else can I not wait to see this season is Travis Hunter. That guy, what do you think he's going to do? He's playing at cornerback. He's playing wide receiver. He excelled at both positions at Colorado. Do you think he falls into more of a receiver role or more of a cornerback role?
Yeah, at first I thought it was going to be more of a receiver role because that's just what they were indicating over there in Jacksonville. Liam Cohen, the new head coach, has ideas for what he wants from him. But then they just threw him into the fire and said, what, let's do both. Let's try it out. And, we haven't seen this since his mentor, Deion Sanders, really excelled at it. There's no reason to me why he can't. He played an exorbitant amount of snaps in Colorado. He showed absolutely no wear and tear from it. He doesn't get hurt. He doesn't get tired. He plays almost every snap of the game. Why can't you do it in the NFL? I know guys hit a little bit harder. I know the game moves a little bit faster, but you drafted him to do this. He's a Heisman winner. He can be a generational player, a game changer. When you get one guy to take up 2 roster spots, or I guess one guy to take up 2 positions, that frees up a roster spot for you. You can build more around him. He's just such an interesting player to look at, and he's going to be so interesting to look at throughout the season because if he excels more at one position, do they take him out of the other position? If he excels at both of them? Like, does he win offensive and defensive player of the year, or offensive and defensive rookie of the year? Like, that would be so interesting to see. I don't think that's ever happened before. So, it's one of those storylines this year that is going to be so interesting to look at and just hone in on every week. And I'm so excited to watch him play for the first time.
I mean, you want to talk about swagger. This kid is full of it. Talk about coming into an NFL team out of college ready to fill that team's needs. How many players can say they can do that? They're really shoehorned into one position that they would excel at. But Travis Hunter is coming in saying, look, whatever you need me to do, I can do it.
He's a good kid from what I've seen. He just wants to win, and I hope they win some games for him.
The NFC North is looking like a very interesting division this year. We've got the Lions with coaching shakeup. Ben Johnson's not there anymore. He's in Chicago with Caleb Williams. J.J. McCarthy is looking at his first season after an injury last year. I personally am excited to see how the Lions kind of shake out. Obviously, they were such a high-scoring team last year. Can they do that again? They've got Sonic and Knuckles in Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. They've got Amon-Ra. They've got Jamison Williams going deep. Like, they've got all the weapons there, but under the coaching change and Jared Goff, how confident are we in Goff to kind of carry them over pretty serious opponents like J.J. McCarthy and Justin Jefferson?
Yeah, I think this is the division to watch for me this year. A lot of other divisions are going to have, exciting drama, like the AFC North instead of the NFC North. But I think this is like your movie screen for the year, because you've got a big coaching change. The Lions had one of the best offenses last year. They lose their offensive coordinator. He goes to a division rival in the Bears. Caleb Williams wasn't great in his rookie year. Now he's got a really good offensive coordinator. Maybe that'll elevate him to the next level. J.J. McCarthy's a rookie quarterback after the Vikings were really good last year. Can they keep that up? And then the Packers, they made it to the playoffs last year. Jordan Love's been good. Their defense has been pretty good, but they have just a ton of competition. Like, what can you do? Who comes out on top? Probably the Lions. But then again, it's going to be a really tough year this year for them.
This division's kind of a shootout between the Lions and the Vikings, like you said. I think the Packers still have a ways to go. I love Jordan Love, no pun intended, but no one really stands out to me with them. You've got guys like Tucker Kraft, Romeo Dobbs, but nothing really. You don't have that guy.
Yeah, if you told me that 3 teams out of the 4 in this division were going to make the playoffs, I would probably agree with you and say that the Packers are the ones that are not going to make it. You're right, the star power is not really there. Still, they could. They made it last year even without that star power. So, that's why it's such an exciting division this year, because I think it could go so many different ways. It's all over the place.
Let's talk about some early morning football we've got this year here on the East Coast. We've got some games kicking off abroad, starting with the Chargers and Chiefs in Sao Paulo.
Yes, in Brazil.
In Brazil.
Yeah, there's a lot of early morning football. It's going to be coming. There's going to be even more. And, some people have different opinions about that. Sao Paulo at least is in our time zone, so it's not going to be any crazy time. But then we're shipping off overseas a lot of the season. We got Vikings Steelers in Dublin. We got Vikings Browns in London. We got Broncos Jets in London. We got Rams Jaguars in London. I'm not done yet. We got Falcons Colts in Berlin, and we got Commanders Dolphins in Madrid. We're going to 5 different countries this year. It's going to be a lot, and unfortunately for the fans who don't like the international games, who don't like getting up at 9 a.m. for watching their team's games, I got bad news for you. In a couple of years, there's going to be 18 of those games. Goodell really wants to expand the schedule, and part of that is probably going to be a full slate of international games, which means one every morning, every week for 18 weeks. So
I was going to say, I actually love this for the growth of the game in general, like expand it to the rest of the world, get people involved. I mean, you see how big soccer is in the rest of the world. I mean, Roger Goodell's clearly trying to get somewhere similar with American football. So I love that. Include the rest of the world, get hype, grow the fan bases. I think it's great for the game.
It's a smash hit every time they go to a different country, and I think it's good to have all those extra fans. So as long as you're not harming the game in any way, which I don't think they're doing yet, if they go too far, it's possible, but as long as you're not harming the game and we're just having fun in other countries during the regular season, keep it up. It's driving revenue. It's letting us watch more football, so have at it.
Thanks again for joining us on this week's episode of Ain't That Our Ball. Don't forget to leave a like and comment down below if you enjoyed, and subscribe for more content from the US Sun.